I'm Martin Garcia. I'm 80 years old. Yesterday, I signed legal papers that guarantee not one penny of my life's work, 50 years as a doctor, every investment, every single sacrifice will go to my children or my grandchildren. Every cent is going to a medical research foundation that won't even have my name on it. Before they hear it from a lawyer, they should hear it from me. Here's my one clear regret. I believe building a financial fortress was the same as building a family legacy. It cost me my children's trust. It created a chasm money can't bridge. Let me tell you what happened. It started 3 months ago. I was in my wood shop sanding a walnut table leg. The smell of sawdust was in the air. My wife Judith came in with coffee. Her hands were shaking. She put the mug down and said, "Martin, we need to talk about the will." The kids called again. Just like that, the air left the room. This wasn't about our health. It was about the fortress, the one I'd spent a lifetime building. That conversation opened a door, and the very next week, my son David walked right through it. He's 52, a financial advisor. He didn't come for dinner. He came for what he called a financial planning discussion. He laid out spreadsheets on my workbench, right over the wood grain I'd sanded by hand. He talked about estate optimization and tax-efficient transfer strategies. I just stared. I saw my life, my surgeries, my late-night calls, my craft, reduced to columns and percentages and liability brackets. My own son, my innovative, creative boy. He saw only a portfolio to manage. I felt sick. If that felt like a clinical assessment, what happened 2 weeks later felt like an appraisal. My daughter Elena is 49, an interior designer. She made a surprise visit. She walked into my study, and her eyes went straight to the antique medical cabinet I'd restored myself. "Dad," she said, not even looking at me, "that would look perfect in the foyer of the new beach house." Not, "I love this because you made it." Just placement. A beautiful thing to be acquired. And I realized with a horrible clarity I had taught her that too. These visits left a cold silence in the house. Judith and I moved through the rooms like ghosts. We didn't talk about it. We just got quieter. Then, last month, my body forced the real issue. I was in the ER, not as Dr. Garcia, but as patient Garcia. Mild angina. Judith was there holding my hand. Wires were taped to my chest. The monitor was beeping that steady, rhythmic beep. Then I heard them. David and Elena, just outside the curtain. They weren't discussing my prognosis. In hissed, urgent whispers, they were arguing about who would get the lake house. I closed my eyes. The beeping felt like a countdown. My heart was breaking, and the machine was just charting its rhythm. I was devastated. In that sterile room, with that sound, the final piece clicked into place. I asked Judith to bring me a notepad. Lying there, I didn't see David's spreadsheets anymore. I saw a different ledger. The missed piano recitals I justified by making a big donation to the Arts Fund. The family vacation to the mountains we canceled because of a lucrative seminar I just had to attend. I'd written a check for them to go to Disney World instead. I funded colleges but didn't teach values. I paid for weddings but didn't model my own marriage to Judith. I was sociable at the country club, innovative in my practice, creative in my workshop, but I was a coward at my own dinner table. I was filled with regret. I was discharged with a stent in my heart and a resolve in my soul. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Sam. I told him to draw up entirely new documents. All assets, after providing for Judith, would go to neurological research. No trusts, no educational funds, nothing. Sam was stunned. Martin, he said, think of your legacy. I told him that's exactly what I was doing. I was ending the legacy of silence and expectation I had created. The legacy of viewing my children as heirs instead of humans. I was determined. The paperwork took weeks. In that time, I didn't call David or Elena. The silence between us became its own answer. Judith insisted we have them over one last time before they were formally notified. It was a quiet, terrible dinner. David talked market trends. Elena talked fabric swatches. I looked at them, my brilliant, successful children, and saw strangers I had subsidized into existence. I had been so creative in my workshop, but at this table, I had only ever written checks. The chasm was my own creation. I was grieving. After they left, Judith cried. I went to my workshop but didn't turn on the lights. I just sat in the dark, surrounded by the things I'd built with my hands, wondering why I hadn't built the family the same way. Yesterday, Sam came to the house. The documents were final. I sat at my desk in my study, surrounded by photos of a family that felt like it belonged to another man. I picked up the pen. It was heavier than any surgical scalpel I'd ever held. Signing my name felt like performing an autopsy on my own dreams. With each signature, I wasn't disinheriting my children. I was finally acknowledging that I had already failed them long ago. It was a solemn, terrible peace. I understand now. I was a coward. I used money as a substitute for presence. An inheritance isn't what you leave for your children, it's what you leave in them. I left spreadsheets and acquisition plans. I should have left stories. Stories of my own fears, my medical school debts, the real pride of restoring that old cabinet. I should have made the money human, instead of letting it make my family transactional. The clarity is brutal, so I called my lawyer, Sam, the next morning. I told him to draw up entirely new documents. All of it, after providing for Judith, would go to neurological research. No trust, no educational funds for the grandkids, nothing. Sam was stunned. I could hear it over the phone. Martin, he said, his voice low, think of your legacy. Think of your family name. I told him that's exactly what I was doing. I was ending the legacy of silence and expectation I had created, the legacy of viewing my children as heirs instead of humans. He argued gently. He's a good man. He talked about contesting the will, about the strife it would cause. I told him the strife was already here. It was living in my house, in the cold dinners and the appraising glances. I was determined. I said, Sam, just draw up the papers. The paperwork took weeks. In that time, I didn't call David or Elena. The silence between us became its own answer. It was loud. Judith moved through the house like a ghost. She'd look at me over her coffee in the morning, and her eyes were full of a sad understanding. She tried to warn me, you see, for years, gently. She'd say things like, "Martin, maybe we should take the kids to the lake house this summer, just us." And I'd say, "I've got that conference, but here, give them this for a trip." I'd write a check. I was always writing a check. Judith insisted we have them over one last time before they were formally notified. She said it was the right thing to do. I think she hoped for a miracle, that they'd see us, really see us, and something would change. It was a quiet, terrible dinner. David talked market trends. He mentioned a client who'd made a killing in pharmaceuticals. I just nodded. Elena talked fabric swatches for a project in Charlotte. She asked Judith if she could borrow the silver service for a dinner party. It would photograph beautifully, she said. I looked at them, my brilliant, successful children, and saw strangers I had subsidized into existence. I had been so creative in my workshop, so innovative in my practice, but at this table, I had only ever written checks. The chasm was my own creation. I was grieving, right there, chewing my roast beef. After they left, Judith cried. She didn't make a sound, just sat at the cleared table and let the tears roll down her face. I didn't know what to do. I went to my workshop but didn't turn on the lights. I just sat in the dark in my old rolling chair, surrounded by the shapes of the things I'd built with my hands. The half-finished cabinet, the set of golf clubs I was re-gripping. I ran my fingers over the smooth handle of a chisel. I knew every tool in this room, their weight, their purpose. I had taught myself how to use them. Why hadn't I taught myself how to build a family the same way? With patience, with attention to the grain, with my full presence. Yesterday, Sam came to the house. The documents were final. He had a notary with him. We sat in my study. I was at my desk, surrounded by photos of a family that felt like it belonged to another man. There was David in his cap and gown, Elena on her wedding day beaming, Judith and me on that golfing trip to Scotland, the wind whipping our hair. Happy ghosts. Sam slid the papers over to me. He pointed where to sign. I picked up the pen. It was heavier than any surgical scalpel I'd ever held. My hand, usually so steady from a lifetime of precise work, shook. Just a tremor. Signing my name felt like performing an autopsy on my own dreams. Each signature was a cut. Martin Garcia. Martin Garcia. With each one, I wasn't disinheriting my children. I was finally acknowledging that I had already failed them long ago. It was a solemn, terrible peace. The notary stamped the pages. The sound was so final. Sam packed up his briefcase. He put a hand on my shoulder. I hope you know what you're doing, Martin. Then he left. Judith came in after. She didn't say anything. She just stood behind me and put her hands on my shoulders. We stayed like that for a long time, looking at those photos. I understand now. I was a coward. I used money as a substitute for presence, a buffer against every difficult conversation. An inheritance isn't what you leave for your children, it's what you leave in them. I left spreadsheets and acquisition plans. I should have left stories. I should have told David about the terror of my first solo surgery, not just paid for his business degree. I should have shown Elena the receipts from my own medical school loans, the ones I worked 3 jobs to pay off, instead of just buying her that first condo. I should have made the money human, instead of letting it make my family transactional. The clarity is brutal. It's the clearest diagnosis I've ever made. And you know what the real tragedy is? I'm a doctor. I spent 50 years listening to people's hearts, their lungs, their fears about their bodies. I was sociable. I could talk to anyone. Patients loved me. But at home, I prescribed money. For every ache, for every disappointment, for every milestone I missed. I was innovative in everything except love. I got creative with trusts and annuities instead of being creative with my time. So here I am. The papers are signed. The notifications go out today, which is why I'm sitting here talking to this camera. They'll be getting a letter from Sam's office. It will be formal, legal, cold. They deserve to hear it from me first, even if it's too late for it to matter, even if all I can give them now is the reason instead of the money, even if all I can give them now is the reason instead of the money. And the reason is so simple, it's humiliating. I failed them, not by accident, but by design. I designed a life where money was the solution to every problem, the bridge over every uncomfortable silence. And I taught them to see the world that way too. You see, after Sam left, after the papers were signed, I thought I'd feel a surge of something, righteousness, defiance, something. I just felt empty and old. Judith went to lie down. The house was so quiet. I went back to my study and I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, the one with the sticky hinge. Inside were the old photo albums, the real ones, with the sticky plastic pages. I pulled one out. It was heavy. I sat on the floor with my back against the desk, and I opened it. There was a picture of David. He must have been 7. He'd built a robot out of cereal boxes and tinfoil for the school science fair. He was beaming, holding it up. I was supposed to be there. I had a surgery, a gallbladder, I think. Routine. I sent Judith with a video camera and a brand new $100 bill to take him out for ice cream after. In the photo, his smile is so bright. But I know, because Judith told me later, that when they called his category and they called for David Garcia and his father, he looked right at the door. He waited. He thought I might still make it. I didn't. I was reading a chart, making money. I turned the page. Elena at 10. She had a solo in the spring choir concert, a little folk song about a sparrow. She practiced for weeks. Her voice was so clear. I was scheduled to give a lecture at a conference in Atlanta, important for my reputation. I flew out that morning. I called her from the hotel that night. "How was it, sweetheart?" She said, "It was okay. Just flat." "Did you get the flowers?" I'd ordered a huge bouquet to be delivered to the school. "Yeah," she said, "they were big." I told her I was proud. I sent a check to the music program the next week. I funded the next 3 concerts. I never heard her sing that song. That's when I started to cry. Sitting on the floor of my study, an 80-year-old man surrounded by the evidence of his own absence. I cried hard, ugly, shaking sobs. because I saw it now with this horrible, clear vision. Every time I chose the money, the career, the fortress over them, I was making a deposit, but not into their college funds, into a different account, an account of resentment, of distance. And I was teaching them what I valued. I was the lesson, and they learned it perfectly. David learned that value is quantifiable, that legacy is about asset allocation. He brought me spreadsheets because that's the language I gave him. It was the only language I ever really spoke to him about what mattered. Elena learned that beautiful things, experiences, objects, even people, are for acquisition and display. She looked at my cabinet and saw a statement piece because I'd always given her things instead of time. I bought her admiration instead of earning her trust. The hardest moment wasn't in the hospital. It was right then on that floor. It was the crushing weight of understanding that I had loved them fiercely, but I had loved them all wrong. I had confused provision with parenting. I thought if I built the perfect, secure world around them, they'd feel safe. But security isn't the same as safety. Safety is knowing your Father sees you. Security is just knowing his check will clear. I thought about calling them right then, tearing up the papers. But here's the terrible truth. It was too late. The pattern was set. The mold was hardened. If I left them the money now, after all this, it would just be the final, grandest check. It would validate everything I'd taught them. It would say, see, this was the point all along. Wait for the payout. I couldn't do it. This cutting them off, this drastic, cruel-seeming act, it's the first honest thing I've done as a father in 30 years. It's me finally saying, the bank is closed. There is no more transaction. There is only what's left between us as people. And I know what's left might be nothing. It probably is. I have to live with that. Judith found me there. She didn't say anything. She just sat down on the floor next to me, her knees cracking, and she put her head on my shoulder. We sat like that for a long time, looking at the ghost children in the album. I'm sorry, I said. My voice was raw. For all of it. She took a deep breath. I know, she said. But Martin, they're still there. David and Elena. They're not these pictures. They're grown people, hurt people. And this is going to devastate them. I know, I said. They might never forgive you. I know that too. Then why, she asked, not accusing, just tired. Why do it this way? I closed the album. The plastic page stuck a little. Because, I said, and it was the clearest thought I'd had in months, forgiveness is the only thing left I can't buy. It's the only real thing left to ask for. And maybe, just maybe, by taking the money off the table, there's a chance, one tiny chance, they might hear the ask. It was a desperate hope, a fool's hope, but it was all I had. Not a legacy of wealth, but a plea for grace. And that's where I am now, waiting for the storm to break, knowing I built the clouds that are about to rain down on my own head. The clarity is absolute, and it hurts more than any angina. And it hurts more than any angina. But it's a clean hurt, an honest one. For the first time, maybe ever, I'm not hiding from what I've done. Here's what I learned, sitting on that floor with my photo albums. I learned that being a good provider is not the same as being a good father. I was innovative in my medical practice, creative in my workshop, sociable on the golf course. But at home, I was on autopilot. I thought love was a noun, a thing you built and left behind, like a well-crafted cabinet or a robust investment portfolio. It's not. It's a verb. It's showing up. It's sanding down the rough edges of your own ego to make room for someone else. I never did that. I just wrote checks and called it love. I was wrong about legacy. A legacy isn't a stack of statements. It's the echo of your voice in your children's minds long after you're gone. What's my echo? Talk to your mother. The check is in the mail. I'm proud of you, said from a hotel phone. It's hollow. I should have filled their heads with stories, not their bank accounts with digits. I should have told David about the first time I lost a patient, how I sat in my car and cried, so he'd know that strength isn't about never failing. I should have shown Elena the rejection letters from medical schools, so she'd know that worth isn't about never getting a no. So here is my direct advice to you. If you're sitting on assets, on a will, on a silence that's growing between you and the people you love, do not do what I did. Talk to your children about money now, today, not as a future inheritance, but as your past. Show them your first tax return. Show them the bill from my medical school. Show them the photo of the tiny apartment Judith and I shared with a radiator that banged all night. Make the money human. Tell them, this is what I traded my time for. Sometimes it was worth it. Sometimes I traded too much. Have that hard, vulnerable conversation over the dinner table, not through a lawyer's letter. Model the values you want them to inherit, not by writing a check to charity, but by taking them with you to serve the meal at the shelter. Be present in the mess. That's the real trust fund. You still have time. I don't. My chance is gone. The mold is set. The cement is dry. But yours isn't. Maybe your relationship with your kids is strained. Maybe it's just quiet. It's not too late to change the conversation. It's not about ripping up your will. It's about ripping up the script you've been following. Stop performing the role of the provider and just be the parent, the grandparent, the person. It will be awkward. It will be hard. They might not understand at first. Do it anyway. The alternative is what you see in me, an old man in a quiet house, surrounded by beautiful empty things, signing away a fortune because it's the only way left to say, I'm sorry. This channel, I'm told, is for stories like mine, for hard lessons learned too late, shared in the hope that someone else might learn them in time. If this story, my failure, has meant something to you, if it's made you think or hurt or pick up the phone, then I'd consider that a better legacy than any foundation. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. There are more people with more stories, and we all have something we need to say before it's too late. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me, is there a conversation you've been avoiding? A piece of your history you've kept locked away because it's messy or painful? Maybe today's the day to share it. Hit that like button if this resonated with you, if it stung a little. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a friend who's always too busy, or with a parent who doesn't understand why their grown children seem so distant. If you have your own story, something you've learned the hard way, there's a form in the description. Fill it out. Maybe your voice will be the one that saves someone else from my kind of regret. I'd recommend a book that Judith read to me, one that helped her find words for what I couldn't see. The Gift of Years by Joan Chittister. It's not about money. It's about meaning. There's a link below. To David and Elena, if you're watching this, I love you. This was never about punishment. It was my last desperate attempt to break the cycle I created. The money is gone. What's left is you and me and the truth. And my hope, however foolish, that without the shadow of that fortune between us, we might one day find a way to just be a family again. Not a financial entity, a family. To everyone else, don't let your legacy be a secret kept until you're gone. Let it be a story told while you're here. Build your family with time, with truth, with your own hands. Don't make my mistake. The clearest lesson I can leave you with is this. An inheritance isn't what you leave for your children. It's what you leave in them. Leave them your courage, your flaws, your humanity. Leave them yourself. It's the only thing that ever really lasts.